Alrighty, so I'm back for this 2014 BMW 3 Series. This is part 2. Part 1 you'd have to watch, again, where it wasn't shifting correctly. Lost count with the electronic gear shift. All kinds of stuff on PT Can 1. There's high and low. Low was good, high was bad. But we let it, I took that connector off. It didn't look dirty. I mean, I did spray some cleaner in there, but there was nothing dirty about it. And it wasn't in the transmission because we scoped it in part 1. It wasn't in the transmission. It was in, we got error signals in the CAN bus system on CAN high. Well, everything's running great now. So there was history codes in there. I cleared them, which we did before in part 1, and it came back. But look, everything's green. It runs and it shifts fine. Remember, it was PT Can 1, which was these guys here. The gear shift, selector switch, the EGS, the DME, all that stuff. The fuel pump as well had lost comm. When I first turned this CAN engine off, I didn't even hear the fuel pump on when I brought it in. Now, it did sit outside for the last 2 days. It's been 35 degrees with some snow. So I'm going to scope that one again, pull it up, put it up on the lift, scope it, see what the CAN high looks like, and then go from there. Alrighty, so I started unhooking that connector. As soon as I started moving it back, I could hear the instrument cluster dinging and all that stuff. Let's do a fault scan again. Alright, so let's finish scanning. Look at all the codes we have, obviously, because it's unhooked. It's going to be EGS stuff. Just like in part 1, EGS stuff. Gear selector switch EGS. We don't have the fuel pump on though. And I don't hear the fuel pump running this time either, like it did in part 1. So what I want to do now, well, let's just listen. Keys on, engine off, the fuel pump's not running. We don't have a communication issue with that. I want to go through this connector and then probe it. For CAN high, CAN low. You know, I'll show you here what pin it is in the service data. This will pull it right up for us. Go back in here. So I want to run this. Sorry about my ugly face in this glare. Alrighty. It's going to say, yeah, we have no communication. Check the communication. Hit continue. We're not going to have any because we unplugged the damn thing. So before, I was like, okay, perhaps a transmission mechatronics unit, but I'm like, nope. It was on the bus side because I unplugged it and I scoped the bus. You'd have to watch part 1, and we had fuel pump control issues. But if you look at this, we're going to go to CAN high and CAN low, 5 and 6 on this connector here. I'm going to go to 5 and 6. So let me get that connector off next. Alrighty, so for my scope, I got my battery ground up on the battery, and then I'm piggybacked in the pin 5 with my oscilloscope, and it's reading correctly now. That's CAN high. Go to a 5-volt scale, 2.5 bias voltage going high to 3.5, 3 3/4. That's CAN high. Before CAN high, you'd have to watch part 1. Had all these going down and a couple going up, which was weird. Now let's go to CAN low, which is 6, I believe. Yeah, 6 on PT Can 1. We'll go to 6 next. I could use this split screen. Let's go to CAN low. Now I'm in 6, which is CAN low. So why is it, there's your bias voltage. Let's go back to high. But why did the other day in part 1 of this video, let me go back to CAN high before I talk on that. All right, back to CAN high. Bias voltage 2.5. Just go to the 10-volt scale. So this is good. Before, in part 1 of this video, there was all these were facing down and there was a couple going up, which was affecting that whole bus, which was, go back to this. This is just helping trying to troubleshooting it. Yeah. I'm just going to go through all this. Okay. Just take all that with a grain of salt. But if I go back, PT Can 1, which is this one, this is the bus that's affecting the DME, the EGS, the gear selector shift, fuel pump, and this even had a cold airbag advanced crash safety module. But anyways, we do this in part 1. I'm like, okay, it's not the electronic gear shift, which is a transmission. It's in this network. I was like, is there a module in this network that's taking it down? Or was there a wire in here shorted somewhere? And maybe from me moving that harness up there, you know, it's not doing it. But that harness looks, I know you can't really see the video, but it looks fine. I'm looking there more off camera. And it's outside and it's colder. So I'm going to drive it again, put it all back together and clear the codes and go from there. All right, it's all plugged back in, cleared the codes. Nothing came back. You know, I was like, well, maybe it is a wire chafing, but in part 1 of the video, after we put it back together, we still had faults. I have to go back and review that data, but I'm pretty sure we did. So it's got to be, well, obviously it's one of these modules in this PT can or wiring, but it's not doing it now. You have to do it again, so we're going to have to have them drive it for a while. I guess go from there. All right, we're going to drive it around, but before I do that, I'm going to see if there's any updates available, which I know for 2014 that would not fix this problem, but let's just see anyways. Were control needs to replace? No, we didn't replace any. We're going to go to programming coding. We got our battery maintainer on. We got Steve helping. Well, kind of. He brings me Mountain Dew and elk jerky. So we're going to go selective update. I'm going to check all these. Let's go to the EGS first. Electronic gear shift, see if there's any update. There is the old integration level and then the new integration level, F2017, F20. So there is a update. We're going to program and code it. Let's go ahead and do that. Not saying it's going to download the file. Not saying it's going to fix it. Let's do a few of these updates. Drive it around after we update everything. Get it good and warm, drive it, and make sure everything's good. And then we'll go from there. But let's get these updated. Yes, we're connected to the internet. We're connected via our USB cable to our VCMI. Which is nice about the Ultra. It does BMW program. I've heard different stories on using this to do it. But I've also used, I have ISTA, but I've heard different stories using a J-Box with ISTA as well. I've always had good luck programming with my Ultra. Knock on wood. Turn off engine, turn on terminal 15. Key on engine off. It is. Okay, so now it's preparing the vehicle for programming. I'm going to pause this till it goes through some of these menu items here. It's going to prepare it, program it, control, change over, code it, upgrade the integration level, run a bunch of, little stuff it's doing. Alrighty, so it's programming right now. You can see it's in programming mode on the screen. We'll just let it run, do its thing, and then we'll come back. Alright, so it finishes programming. Now it's ending its programming. Then it's going to do its coding. Me and Steve-O were talking, and we're like, it's got to be a module that was causing that CAN bus issue in part 1 of this video series, because a wiring issue. I have videos where I shorted CAN high to CAN low, and it didn't look like that if I remember it correctly. But maybe it did. I have to go back and look. I would think a module, but again, who knows? We got to drive it and go from there. Alright, so it coded it, upgraded the integration level. Now it's running its power down and the rest of its things. Alright, so it's finishing its stuff up here. It's deleting the fault codes at the last part here. I just want to go through and update this stuff that's on this bus. And then we'll go drive it. So here's your final report. The old integration level. Program code success. Everything's success. Make sure I'm not missing nothing. Plant old, so there's old and new, it looks like. So that's all good. Just updating the vehicle order. I'm going to update a couple more modules on this bus, then we'll go drive it and go from there. So the only thing I updated was the electronic gear shift and the engine computer. But then after we're done, I see a drivetrain malfunction code, and I hear the fuel pump in the back running. Probably won't be able to hear it in the video. Let's scan it here and see. So it is doing it again, I bet. We got codes. Let's see what we got. Let's go to report. Yep, EGS COM, fuel pump status, transmission again, fuel pump control module, just like part 1, EKPS. Gear selector switch. I can hear the fuel pump running in the back. So, I bet you, if we were to scope it again, our CAN bus is going to be on our CAN high, PT CAN high 1, is going to be all corrupt. Well, I'm glad it came back, because now, you know, what's the difference? Well, it's been sitting inside for the last hour and a half, and it's getting warm. It sat outside when it was cold. Now it's warm. And they brought this car in when it was, well, about a week or two ago. I guess that doesn't really matter. Weather's been changing a lot, but and our stuff is back. So what we're gonna have to do now, well, I was gonna drive it, but it's acting up again, is and obviously it'll start right up, but it ain't gonna shift right. Because of all the calm stuff. But we're gonna have to do, we know it's not the transmission. Yeah, it's not running very smooth either. I can feel it. I don't know if you can feel it in the video or not. Probably not. I wouldn't imagine you could, but I can. I'm sitting here and it's doing what it did before in part 1 of the video. So we need to look. We know it's not the electronic gear shift or electronic transmission, so it's not that. We can unplug the gear shift while we scope it and see the engine computer, but who knows, termination resistor there, or the fuel pump. All right, so let's go to this fuel pump thing. We don't have COM, just like we did in part 1. Yeah, and I can hear it running. You probably can't hear running in here, but we don't need to go back under the cards. We're back to square one. Except we know it's not the transmission. We know all the modules are updated, which it wouldn't be anyway, so update, but since we're here, we did it. So now, oh, you bastard. I talked about this in part 1 a little bit. Fuel pump with alt ethanol sensor, fuel pump. Early production, late production. We need to find the fuel pump control module that controls this. Because here's your PT CAN, high and low right there. That's where we need to unhook it and scope it, this connector right here. because this is just going to get powers and grounds and stuff like that. And here's your module. I want to unplug it and scope it here and see if it goes away, then we know it's this module or something. If it stays there, then we eliminated this. Then what we got left is we got, after the fuel pump, we got the engine computer and the electronic gear shift and or wiring. So where is this guy at? That's a splice. That's PT can high. Fuel pump connector is right there. We got to find this guy. Where's this guy at? Oh, fuel pump control right back here. Let me see if I can find this. As soon as I said that, the fuel pump started working again fine, or stopped making a noise, and my messages went away. Look at this. Now it's working again. Let's just exit out of this. Yeah, we'll just make some. Okay. Sure, whatever. Let's go back to this. Now let's erase it. Now it's doing it again. Drivetrain malfunction. Okay, good. I want it to do it again. So we're going to find that fuel pump module and go from there. So we've been scanning, moving around, looking at stuff, and it comes and goes. It's good now, then a minute later it'll beep and we don't have comm. But we got to the fuel pump control module. Hold that light, Steve. Which is right there. Alright, so I want to find, so can high, can low is 9 and 16. 9 is high, 16 is low. 9 and 16 are a top above each other. Looking at it. Blue with the red and red. So there's two connectors, but it's this one. Yeah, that's these two right here on the right. I believe you got a red and a green. It says blue with a red and a red. 9 and 16. So it's those two on the right. Clip on top. So those two on the right. It is red and then blue with, or green, or blue with a red. It's hard to see in this. It looks blue with a red. Red and blue with the red. So that's our can high, can low. We're going to probe those right now with the oscilloscope and look. But obviously it's not doing it right now and everything's good. And the only codes we have is the communication fuel pump code from the DME and the fuel pump itself, because we have it unplugged. Now, is this the issue? We don't know. Let's get our scope ready. So if it does do it again. Alrighty, I got my VCMI hooked up still. Battery ground. There's can high, which is good. Before it was messed up, if you watch part 1 of the video. There's can low. Can high was always the messed up one. Let me go back to can high. Oh, the light is bright. There's can high. So we need it to act up now. We'll plug this module back in and see if we can get this thing to act back up. I'm not saying that's the issue, but if it does act up, which it was why we're getting access to this, I want to unplug it. If it goes away, then we know it's this module. Or if it doesn't go away, we check, the bus wiring and still got the engine computer and the electronic gear shift left. Yeah, so it's plugged back in. Everything's green again. And I know when it acts up because on the screen there, it says drivetrain malfunction and it beeps, chimes. But everything's good right now. We got to get it to act up again and unplug it and see if it's this module, which this is highly suspect. All right, so before I was even filming all this, while we're looking at this, the fuel pump would turn on with the key on, engine off. We'd have the code, the dash would light up, then it would go off, then it would come on, then it would go off. And we got back to this. We can't get it to act up since then. Is that because we disturbed that and this is the issue? We're trying to get it to do it again and it's not. So we'll continue to try to get it to act up. We've been running it for a while, put in different gears, and nothing has come back yet. Alrighty. What were you saying?
No, last time when you were doing this, the fuel pump came back on much sooner than this.
Pretty quick, so we started messing with this. Yeah, I agree. So it's not acting up. Everything's back together. We're going to go ahead and drive it and see if it comes back up. This will be part 2 of the video. There may be a part 3. There may not. I don't know yet. Depends how this goes. We're going to clean up and then take it for a drive and see what we come up with. So that is it for part 2 for this 2014 BMW PT can issues. Transmission issues, fuel pump issues, all kinds of issues. Damn it, I just exited out of my scan tool and it's doing it right now. Let's go back. Let's go back in and see what it does. Alright, so it's still doing it. We got a drivetrain malfunction. We got a report, we scanned it. Fuel pump control module, yep. Let's scope this son of a gun. Well, let's unplug it first. So I got it. Light up here, Steve. Key on engine off. It's got all kinds of faults on the dash. Steering, parking, trailer brake, all kinds of stuff. Light up here. I'm in my CAN bus, but I don't even have a good waveform. What the hell is going on? I'm on DC volts. Let's go to 500 millivolts. That's not even a full, it's not even have the right bias voltage. And if you look up here, hood open, yeah. But every damn light in the dash is on. Brake system, all kinds of stuff. What?
Can you plug it in and back probe it?
Yeah. Let me just do this quick. Let's fault scan it again. Got codes everywhere. I want to catch us while it's doing it. I've never had this many codes before. Cluster, all kinds of stuff. The whole bus is jacked up. Damn. Let's go back to the scope. Well, this is different than it was in part 1 now. The way the bus looks. I'm like, did I have my scope set up right? Light, Steve. I'm probing both different CAN, high and low, and it's not doing nothing. I plugged it back in, and the fuel pump's running the whole entire time. You can hear it. I don't know if you guys can hear it in the video. So it's drivetrain malfunction. Well, maybe it's because I unplugged that module. Like Steve was saying, we need the back probe it now. All right, light down here, Steve, and we're back probe with Phil's probe on the red wire. I don't remember if that's CAN high or CAN low. But either way, this looks like CAN low, except we got those marks going up like we did in part 1. Why do we have those going up? So let's go to the other wire and check.
That's high.
All right, now we're in CAN high. The other one was low, but look at this. This is like part 1 now. This is supposed to be CAN high, but we're going down in CAN low. Well, this is supposed to be CAN high, but why is all the stuff going down? Why do you go down? I'm joking. So let's go to the fuel pump and let's get the schematics to make sure here. I already forgot what color is what. You can hear the fuel pump on. Just want the schematics. That's all I want right now. And it says drivetrain malfunction. It is weird that when we unplugged it, it was doing that stuff. Maybe I didn't have a good connection, but I was front probing, I should have. But now we're back probe with it plugged in. Okay, come on. I'm kind of in a hurry because I want to lose my connection. So can high is the one. Blue and red. Blue and red. Light. Okay, we are on blue and red. So that's can high. If you look on the scope, that's an issue. They should all be going up. Our 2.5 bias voltage is there. But they should all be going up and they're going down. Let's do can low again. She's got a good point. He's going to film here. We're going to unplug it. That's can high. We're not going to even go to can low right now. I want to see what it does. Well, let me go to can low. I'll just probe it real quick before we unplug it. Can low, you can still see some anomalies coming up, but not like can high. And that's what we saw in part 1 of the video with the transmission. That's back to can high. We should all be going up, but they're not. So let's unplug it. Okay, it's not the fuel pump control module. Just look down here, Steve. I'm unplugged. Can you see that? I might not have had a good connection earlier the way I was doing it. But it's unplugged. The CAN bus wires are unplugged. There's 2 connectors, but the CAN bus wires are unplugged. Go back to the screen. So it's not the fuel pump module. We still have a drivetrain malfunction. Damn it. Like we're getting there and then we get away. And then look, it went away. That's what I was doing earlier. Well, okay, sorry, I didn't have a good connection on my probe. That's what I was doing. I didn't have a good connection earlier when I had unplugged earlier in the video when I was front probing it. But it's messing with the whole entire bus of the car. That is not correct right there. So it is not the fuel pump control module, because we have it out of the equation. You hold this again, we plug it back in. You can hear the fuel pump off, plug it back in, turns back on. It should not always be on. If I go back to this, go to this, yeah, just get out of this thing. Let's erase all these codes. And we have codes everywhere that we didn't have before. And we have more messages on the dash. That's all that beeping that we didn't have before. And I don't think I introduced another problem by unhooking the fuel pump control module. We used it for testing. At first I thought I did, but we didn't. It's not the fuel pump control module. Definitely got a bus issue. Maybe it's from another module. So now when I clear them all, what's left is EGS like we did in part 1 and the fuel pump stuff. And it keeps beeping too because I got the hood open. That's what you always hear in the background as well. Gear selector, shift, fuel pump, and EGS. Just like part 1. Same exact thing. Let's scan it again. See where we're at. Again, everything's plugged back in. Report. Transmission unit, fuel pump module, gear selector. We already talked about all these. There's your PT CAN. Powertrain CAN communication phone, the DME. No message from the transmitter. ACSM. Central gateway PT can. So again, it's like we're going in a full circle here. We unplugged this tranny, nothing changed. That's part 1, you can see the message. Still corrupt in the CAN bus on CAN high, PT CAN 1. Same thing in the fuel pump, we just did it now. What's left is the engine computer, the electronic gear shift, the advanced airbag crash safety module, which I doubt that's it. But then it links off the FAM and the gateway module. Alright, so we got to figure out why well, that's weird, because now I got a good probe on here. There we go. It's this probe. I gotta get a new one of these. That's me doing that. Yeah, let me fix this connection quick. Where's that my scope aliasing right now? Because it is doing some weird stuff. No, that was my connection. This feels probably got to get in there to the teeth. I burnt a couple of them before. Too many amps going through it. But yeah, that is not right. As soon as this goes away, everything goes up for CAN high. But we got to figure out why. So what's left on this bus? The engine computer, the electronic gear shift, and wiring. Oh, and the airbags module, which I doubt. Oh, and then it goes to the gateway. Is there something else that's going through the gateway causing this issue? Or what? But I unplugged the fuel pump. Let's just do it again. Let's unplug it one more time. Look down here at the camera. You go to the scope. Unplugged. Still got those lines. Fuel pump went off. So it's not the EKPMS, or the fuel pump module, whatever they call it. We plug it back in. God, my connections. So look over here at the camera, just right here, Steve. I got both connectors unplugged, just for the heck of it. We go back to the scope. Still issues. Not the tranny, not the fuel pump. We need to do now, get back to the drawing board, get to these other modules, eliminate those modules one at a time. We already did 2 of them, the tranny and the fuel pump. And see if it's another module causing it, or it's wiring. And it seems like it's doing it as it sits in the shop longer, as it gets warmer. That's what it seems to be. So that'll be it for part 2 of this 2014 BMW 3 Series.